Hello, Namaste. I welcome you all to the 76th session of GURUBODHA. I cordially welcome all the participants to this session, and on behalf of us, all of us students, I cordially welcome Dr. Gururaja sir to this session. Good evening and namaste, sir. This session is brought to you by easyayurveda.com. I dedicate this and all of my works at the holy feet of Dr. A. Chandrasekhar Udupa. This class is live exclusively for weekly class subscribers. If you have not done that, please go to easyayurveda.com/video-classes. So starting right through this is the case of overactive Agni, sort of a modern day problem, considering that we eat a lot of sugar, a lot of processed foods, deep fried food, etc., and which gets us in the state of craving. And once we are craving for excessive foods, it becomes sort of a vicious cycle. And here the student is asking, one needs to continuously eat something because of craving in the stomach or in the mind. How to control frequency of meals, uncontrolled snacking, craving for sweets, be satisfied with smaller portion. Is this because of overactive Agni? Guru sir, it has become such a big menace in the recent time, and almost we are all at one other point of time victims of this, and it really is a sort of a modern day phenomena with junk foods and these Coca-Colas, etc., having very high amounts of sugar, and our lifestyle without exercise, etc., leading to lack of discipline. Can you please take us through this question and break it down for us, please?
Definitely, and it cannot be simply branded as a overactive Agni. There are multiple factors involved in it. The question is, one needs to continuously eat something because of craving a stomach or mind. Stomach doesn't have anything else. Whatever you feed in, it is going to digest it. That's the only activity it does it. And when there is sufficient digestive juices and the food is not there, then it gives an indication. But what to eat, how to eat, when to eat, it is decided by our mind, and mind plays a very important role here. Whereas one who is eating it, definitely those who continuously try to eat in a small portions or goes on taking a multiple meals, definitely there will be some endocrine linked issues will be there. We need to check upon that. And the second thing is the way we inculcate or develop our habits of eating and what we are eating. And definitely if you are eating such a type of refined sugars which can stimulate your brain in such a way, or you are using some sort of junk food which may be having some sort of chemicals or preservatives or emulsifiers or food additives that may trigger a neurogenic stimulus and stimulate you to go for further eating. So similarly, many times it so happens that in the evening one starts eating pani puri, and every evening the tendency is it starts in his mind that it's a time for pani puri, it's a time for pani puri, that the craving will start. Maybe that is because of some neurotoxic material what they mix with that, maybe like Ajinomoto or something like that. So anything which of that nature are flavored materials or the flavor enhancers, maybe these type of things may cause certain issues. But important thing is that how we train our mind. If we train our mind for a proper type of food and doses, automatically it sets in with that type of food and as well as the quantum. It so happens many times that our elders designed the way we should eat after all describing the benefits of eating a proper type of food and proper quantity of food and proper timing of things, everything explained. In all that there is a corrective measures also they have said, even with all these things, if you continuously take and it may become excess, in order to overcome that, they incorporated a one day called Ekadashi where we need to have Upavasa. The concept of Upavasa has been brought in very systematically to fit or adjust these wrongdoings. So something like how we do it in a calculation of a year. Every 4 year once when we make February as a 29th day instead of 28 days for the correction purposes. So maybe because of such type of activity, even our body needs, and accordingly our Ayurveda principles and even Acharyas a very benefiting way, they have designed these things that we need to observe one day fasting in once in 15 days. It is for the benefit of our Agni, benefit of our body, and to correct its measure and give rest to the digestive tracts. These things are very systematically and methodically explained in our classical text. Presently, the thing is that whatever we have to eat, we intend to have a eating habits, we do it without any hesitation. Our intention now changed into just food means energy, fat, protein, metals, minerals, such other things we have come to. But we never think out whether it is going to have a bad impact on me or whether it is going to have a good impact on our body, which is good to body, which is not good to body. That thing being kept aside, that needs to be trained. So cravings can only be controlled by proper training of the mind as well as food habits and the type of foods what we eat.
Also, sir, in the even in like even with the insulin going up or down, or in case of like thyroid disorder, there will be craving and excessive uncontrolled hunger. So that needs some concentration. Another strategy, some health gurus would tell to control hunger is to drink water ahead of meals. As per Ayurveda, it is a questionable practice that it decreases the Agni, so the quality of digestion of food is compromised to some extent because of the dilution of the Agni due to the water. What do you say about this, sir?
Definitely, it is not a good practice. See, entirely, we need to identify first thing. Our ancient Ayurvedic text and our acharyas are very much concerned about the Agni of a person, and every disease is produced around the Agni. Very clearly, they said when the Agni becomes Manda or Tikshna or accordingly influenced by the doshas, it leads to the formation of ama, and that ama leads to disease manifestation. So everything revolves around the Agni. And very clearly said, by hook or crook, you need to maintain the Agni of a person. If Agni is properly maintained, then only we can have a good thing in our body and the disease can be made ward off. So that's the reason very clearly it is said, Agni is very important. Acharya has very clearly said, Hitabuk, Mitabuk, Shutabuk, so Aruk. One should eat which is good to body. One should eat in a limited quantity which is required to body as per our age, our presence, our work, our body's lifestyle and even body weight and everything, Agni capacity. And only we should eat when there is hungry. So without hunger, just for the time sake of it's 2 o'clock, it's a time for eating. No, don't eat like that. Should have that typically hungry should occur. Hunger should occur in that particular time. And how to get that one? You need to inculcate a habit of 24 hours. In the 24 hours, what should be eaten at what time, how much quantity, and in between the time, what I have to work out, how to do clear-cut utilization of those energy which is taken in. So all these parameters needs to be adjusted and it is trained in such a way that so next Annakala you will have Agni properly and your Agni is rekindled in such a way that you require food at that time. So it's very clear. There are only 2 Annakalas mentioned by our acharyas. When 2 Annakalas are mentioned, now it is been thrown away by their advisors. They have said you go for a small portion of meal repeatedly. So instead of the entire system working on a particular time format, maybe once or twice in a day, it has been now put into a service of 24 hours. Whenever there is a time, you go on eating little bit. Burden will not be there. But ultimately, the entire system will be burdened because of continuous activity. The acharyas have very clearly said, we need to go for typically 2 meals per day. That is good for the person to become nirogi. But still we are eating in a way at least 3.5 times in a day, and definitely without giving any due respect to Agni or beyond giving any due respect to the hunger, simply just because the time, the wall clock is showing at a particular time, it's a time for eating. So we are eating it. So that's the age that munching and that type of things will definitely going to cause a lot of problems, and in future many such diseases will occur just because of this habit.
Like you have rightly pointed out, now there is this intermittent fasting, which is another way of telling people only to eat 2 meals a day. But I have seen now one thing Ayurveda practitioners often get wrong in practicing these 2 meal times is when a patient has a disorder, let's consider digestive disorder, and has been habitually eating, let's say, 4 times a day, 4 meals, maybe 3 meals and a snack somewhere in the evening. So when he, for as long as he can remember, he is doing that. When he comes to us, that transition or educating him to switch to 2 times a day suddenly can be counterproductive. First, we need to, in such a case, first we need to address the digestive disorder, and then the transition of four times a day eating maybe to three times gradually, and then finally to two times when the digestive disorder is addressed, has to happen very gradually and slowly, and we cannot push what they have told for the healthy people cannot be pushed into patients right when they come to us. Correct, sir?
Definitely, when a patient comes to us, we need to first ascertain ourselves that whether the patient has come for the understanding of the concept of Ayurveda, or how to live healthily without causing any damage, or whether he is already in some sort of issues, so he wants some solution from Ayurveda. That we need to understand first. The purpose of visit has to be entertained, and the purpose of visit has to be noted down. Once he is interested to understand the concept, then we can discuss clearly what should be done, how it should be done, how slowly we can shift over from the what present way of his eating habit to which is the ideal one. But when as a patient has come and he needs a solution, then we need to understand the samprapti there. What is the reason for his condition, and where is the triggering mechanism, and what is the problem? Then identify those bottleneck areas, then try to address those things first. Once you address those things, regulate his Agni parameters or even Agni and make it as a cyclic pattern, then automatically slowly you can shift over to from 3.5 times to 3 times, and slowly to 2.5 times, and then to 2 times over a period of time. It should be something like how we adopt the seasonal variations, changes from one ritu to another ritu when we move on, how we change that thing that is called as Rutusandhi Charya. So that type of thing, that needs to be Amsha, it should be our Pada, we need to leave it and we need to adopt it. In a similar manner, we need to slowly reduce it to a certain level, then shift over. And if you inculcate and develop a habit of eating in a systematic manner in this way, our body responds also in the same way. It gradually adjusts to this transformation and behaves and gives a trigger or alarm in a typical manner only twice in a day. But it may take maybe 1 month to come to this transformation, and that needs to be done in that same way. It requires a certain time, and that due respect to the time should be given in order to avoid any complications.
Coming to the diet part, some people are struck to they recognize that there is big disadvantage in taking these modern foods, and they directly get into say these smoothies and raw uncooked vegetables and so on and so forth, and still they suffer with craving or one of the other health issues. Probably we have this Sushruta's quote that the food should be snigdha ushna. So some amount of fat, maybe in the form of a little bit of yogurt. Sometimes the yogurt is not recommended on a daily basis, or ghee, or this one, or cooking healthy cooking oils, sesame oil, coconut oil, etc. So some amount of fat, at least say 5 to 10 ml a day, helps to bring in the satiation, and that is also helpful in decreasing the craving. Correct, sir?
That craving, we need to understand for what reason he has developed craving, whether the body has any issues related to the endocrine system, or it is only his way of practices he has developed over a period of time. If that is ascertained and understood properly, then accordingly the planning can be done. If it is just by habit or habituation that he has developed such practice and he has done it, then definitely it is better to training and counseling in the way that can be corrected. If it is due to endocrine dysfunction and such things are there, that needs to be addressed accordingly.
Yes, sir. And one of the probable culprits, probable reasons for this one could be that if other things are ruled out, is heavy, spicy, salty, and maybe tangy diet. As per Ayurveda, this katurasa, spices, spicy taste, excessive use, salt, and sour, if it is used excessively, can increase Agni and Pitta to a very high extent, which could again cause increased hunger. Probably a strategy could be to decrease the amount of these diets, especially if other things are ruled out, and if we are going into the nitty-gritties of the diet and trying to correct that. Right, sir?
Definitely, the way we are combining the things and the quantity of the food what we're taking, and it's a part of it, how much the spicy, salty, tangy things are there in that, definitely influences that. That's the reason nowadays we have got a lot of patients complaining of the gastric discomfort, and in the form of either hyperacidity or gastric ulcers, or even grahani roga, and so many such things. Nowadays, it's very common that everybody is using that antacids. Very commonly, they take antacids. That's the reason, because we are eating too much of things, and that too these type of spicy and salty things, and not in the right time. That is another thing, and not in the right quantum. We are eating by violating all the norms. That's the reason we have these problems.
Another thing is that most of us, because of this modern day phenomena, we take too much of carbohydrate in the form of rice, sugar, in many different things. And often, especially with these people with craving, if we are ruling out other things and concentrating only on their diets, usually they have say low amount of protein and low amounts of fiber also in the diet. Fiber in the diet is useful to decrease the rate of peristalsis, and that's why it keeps the hunger in check for a long period of time. Something to think about in this regards also.
See, but my observation, what I have made is, I have seen people, those who are purely vegetarians, rely largely upon the carbohydrate. Many times I have seen they are voracious eaters, they eat a large quantum of. Similarly, I have seen people, those who are non-vegetarians, and when there is a non-vegetarian diet, they take too much of material into their body, non-vegetarian diet, and they're also the voracious eaters there. So, but thing is, whether this quantum of food is going to cause a problem, then it may be carbohydrate or even the proteins. Both can also cause. Ati can always cause a problem. It may be anything. The concept modern says that carbohydrates. Unnecessarily, maybe just we are putting blame on carbohydrate. Maybe we don't know, because till recent days we were telling bad about the ghee, and people were pointing about the cholesterol and so many such things. Now with all these control and taking not going for any cholesterol related things, or even the ghee has been removed from the diet. With all these things, still there is a happening of myocardial infarction, and still there is problems with heart diseases and the blockages and everything. Then ultimately they are telling that it is carbohydrate. That's what Acharya very clearly said. It's a Madhurasa which is going to block the Srodasas. Abhishandakaraka guna is present with the Madhur Rasa, which is very clearly said in Ayurveda, but nobody was there to take it. Everybody was behind that carbohydrate. Now they are telling that the essential even level of fat should be there in the food in order to make it good to the body. And very clearly Ayurveda said it should be warm and it is having some snehatva in that. At least the food should be of room temperature, not beyond that. But we should never take something which is colder in nature, because many times we have observed people consuming the cold drinks or lassis or cold materials during summer season. Ironically, this is the thing what happened exactly. Ayurveda has explained that summer is one of the ritu where Agni is very low. Very clearly said, you need not to consume that type of materials there, and it further reduces your Agni. So thereby it leads to all diseases. If you practice very clearly, you can observe that previously in our areas, in the coastal belt of Karnataka, whenever somebody comes from the outside during daytime, in summer seasons or like that, they used to offer him room temperature cold water along with a piece of guda or a jaggery. So it is just to compensate the temperature difference between these two. The cold and the hotness of the guda should combine in such a way that the person should not get the PNS or such type of diseases, or any excess related due to cold, or any excess due to pitta. So that type of balancing activity was very cleverly done by our earlier people and as well as our acharyas. But unfortunately, we are all just throwing it away, and we are using heavily on the cold drinks, as well as we are dependent on various ads and influenced by those things, and using the the fridge for everything. We are trying to pick it up in one day, pumping it into the fridge, and entire week we will be eating these things. So these are the things that needs to be changed according to the requirement of the body. Not for that there is something in the market, I need to purchase it and I have to use it. No. Our utility are the many things. It entirely depends on our internal requirement.
Cold water with jaggery is such a relieving experience. Not only it sort of, somebody who has come from come at a hot sun for a travel for a long period of time, he comes. Not only he'll be dehydrated, he'll be also lacking pitta will be high and lacking some minerals. And jaggery is a combination of everything. And cold water with that, it really replenishes. And I also remember there is another remedy, amla with jaggery given along with cold water. Probably it's from Vaishya Ratnavali for the relief of pitta dosha. Eating food with ghee or oil is compulsory. Food without fat, ruksha anna, is a major cause for vata disease. something you need to modern day problem that we either take heavy junk foods with lot of oil with processed things or all or we do not take it at all. Any comments there, sir, please?
See, that's the thing. It is something like that. I want to wear a Western cloth fittings. Over that, I need to put a very lengthy tilak on my forehead. It is such type of combination. Very clearly, if you want to have an Indianized attire, do it from top to bottom Indian. Similarly, Acharya has very clearly said what type of food you need to take it. It doesn't mean that whatever you take it, you add to that some ghee or some oil to that. That will be no. It is not the way. Very clearly, Acharya has said what is called as a healthy food, how ahara should be, which is a swasthita dravya. Very clearly mentioned. Try to make such type of foods, then add typically whatever the sneha tattva has to be added to that, and then it is good. So that needs to be continued. But of course, without sneha tattva, if you are taking ruksha anna, definitely on a longer basis, it is going to cause a lot of issues and vata will be increased.
Probably we all have to come back to this shadrasa concept. Shadrasa concept is that there are 6 states. Ideal meal or our foods and diet should be having a combination of all 6 states in the diet. In the sweets, we have in the form of sweets some amount of carbohydrates and a little bit of proteins are also sweet. With the sour, salt, and spicy, we have all the pickle and other things. With the astringency, maybe a little bit of fiber and bitter. So the food should be a combination of all. In saying that, they're in a way indirectly hinting that we should have some amount of everything.
Definitely. See, our Indian traditional foods, maybe sambar, maybe some sabjis, definitely will have all these rasas into that. And definitely Acharya is very clearly, very cleverly even said that once you eat all these things, if anything is left out, like astringent or bitter principle is left out, accordingly something to be taken after the food should also have this astringent property, which will help to absorb these things into the body. Even said that a peculiar type of material made up of kashaya rasas, including areca nut, in a small quantity, eating at the end of the food or after the food is going to help the digestion process. But unfortunately, that has been given a very bad status by inclusion of tobacco into that, and that's why it's causing problem. Otherwise, a healthy quantum of the betel leaf and a little bit of lime and a little bit of jaggery into that, and even sometimes ilachi or cardamom and betel nut, and that definitely it will going to help and digest the things. So these things are very good to the body and also for the purpose of absorption of these foods into our system. They do a lot of functions at the level of digestion and assimilation. That's what even Ayurveda said as a tambula kalpana that needs to be readdressed.
Yes, sir. And there is a question on like fasting. So fasting once in 15 days. Can you please brief out how to follow it through liquid diet or how exactly should be done? Just to give a little bit of things. There are varieties of fasting. Even there is this waterless fasting where the person does not eat or drink anything. There is this water fasting. And so these are two main rigorous versions of it. And then there is this fruit only fasting and there is this one meal fasting. So there are many different, there is this only juice fasting, etc. Some of these can be for the beginners who have not fasted at all in their lives to have a start with that, and they can go high up the order, and ultimate goal can be in the waterless fasting. Can please opine here, sir, please?
See, it's a very basic need of a human being, the food. So everybody was behind that, and when we were just in the olden days of the Shila Yuga also, the first thing was a human tried to do was to fill up his stomach, trying to do his all activities surrounded or encircling around obtaining a food. Later, as civilization developed, we learn so many things, growing the food, then shooting goes that, then comes the heating and preparing the foods and so many things. But now we are in such a time and such an era, consuming a food are getting obtaining a food is not a big issue. Everywhere there are outlets and things are there, it can be done. But the important thing is that how much should be taken, what should be taken, when should be taken. That has just lost during these days. That needs to be trained. What was the thing in earlier days was if anything needs to be followed or done in a rigorous manner, they always try to give a tag that it is sanctity, God, holiness, and something like punya. So many things will add to that. This makes the spiritual part of things highlighted and simply with an host of a lot of faith the people is to follow it. But now we are having such a scientific brain. Anything as a culture, a custom, it is there. Then we try to ask question: why, how, what, where, who, why. So many questions will arise. We need to quench all these things. Then only if it is suitable to us, then we follow it. Many times certain things are beyond our limitations and your understanding. Suddenly, if you want to understand about the spirituality, that may not be possible. You need to develop such attitude, listening to that, understanding it repeatedly, then slowly you will understand the importance of that. Similarly, these food chain and the food activity and how to take it or how to do fasting, that comes with certain practices, and that practice needs to be done and developed over a period of time. So those who are simply eating 3.5 times or 4 times a day suddenly wants to go for a fasting in once in 15 days may not be possible for them. They need to understand that anything these type of changes that needs to be amshamsha kalpana, slowly that has to be shifted towards the normalcy or the new goal. So we need to understand that what should be done, how it should be done. Simple way of fasting starting can be done by the quantum of food what I am eating in a 3.5 time in a day, whatever the things I am taking only 2 times of a day, that will be shifted to 3.5 times, but the quantum has reduced. That is also a type of fasting for a person who is already eating 3.5 times a day. Then slowly from that shift over slowly to 3 times. Stop eating evening snacks, then slowly change over to other things. Similarly, these two things to be done, and once these activities actually develop, that it is not difficult for us. Initially, it may be very difficult to adjust to the new situation, but once it is understood or once it is typically adjust to the body, then it becomes a natural activity. Doesn't you never feel like there is something problem in doing these fasting and all those things. But there are totally even without water fasting. There are people they will skip the meals. There are people who consume only fruits. This is according to our requirements, our needs, our utility and our usage of energy in a day. That entirely speaks with this. Reading and writing may be consuming a lot of energy with that, but still his physical activity is less. He can easily shift over to the fasting techniques. But one who is doing fasting, working in a field or a rigorous physical activity, he is losing a lot of energy, and he suddenly goes fasting. Then it is not going to help him, or it is going to cause trouble or counterproductive. So it should be very typically for those who have a less physical activity, those who have a tendency to sit for a longer time, or they are using their brain much more than their muscles. These people require fasting, not the person one who is habitually functioning or working in a hot condition activity and where he is losing his energy and he even doesn't have any issues with the food at all and any bad effect of food. So we need to understand where we stand. So it cannot have a uniform one pattern for everybody. So it should be individualized and customized what is our requirement, how it should be done.
Another question is like, what is the ideal time to eat fruits? I understand that it's not advisable to have fruits with meal. Not correct. And fruits can be had with meals. I think we have also written an article. I quoted a famous Kannada proverb there. It says, "Hasidu halasu tinnu,
Undu mavu.
undu balehennu tinnu, or undu mavu tinnu." There are different versions of it. One way to say it as that if it is sweet fruit, then probably better to eat just before taking food. But fruits per se is not to be avoided. There's no rule that fruit should not be avoided with a meal, because even in a custom traditional meals also we are served with this mango purees, so to speak. In the pickles, etc., we use a lot of fruits and vegetables mixed up. Your opinion on this, sir, please?
So very clearly, we need to understand the fruit means what? Fruit means it is pakwa, paripakwa. So in mostly condition where we want to have the positive effect of the fruit, it is always fully grown, fully matured and ripened and seasonal produce. That is very good to the body. That is point number one. Unripened fruit won't come under the fall under the category of fruit here. Unripened, unseasonal, are artificially made into something like seasonal, and such type of things are as possible to be avoided. It's point number one. Second, when to eat fruits. Typically, Ayurveda said when to eat. So it is typically when to eat. So whenever you are hungry, you need to eat. So whenever you are hungry, you need to take food. That is, in Anna Karna, you can eat. It may be fruit or it may be Anna. But how far we can mix up all those things? Yes, there are certain things which can be mixed, but most of the things can't be mixed. For example, the mango related things usually goes very well with the fruit, but not all other things. Not all other things. And typically, there are saying that those fruits which require much stronger Agni, those things needs to be eaten before food, like the jackfruit. Jackfruit should be consumed on empty stomach. Similarly, whatever you eat it, at the end, if you want to digest it properly and assimilate it, you need to eat such a type of fruits which are slightly pitta vardaka or agni vardaka with some sort of sour and sweet taste combinations like mango or even to some extent papaya, carica papaya. So these fruits can be consumed after the food. So that's the very typical way the acharyas have said, and it is a practice. And of course, in traditional things and the population, or Janapada, what we call as a customs, there have been many type of things. Even people have said that how when after the food one has to take sugar cane. So it is a practice in different part of the world, in different localities and conditions. People do it.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the clarification there. Nowadays, few pediatricians advise to boil fruits and vegetables, mash them, and serve to the kids. How far is this right and good? Is there any such reference of boiling?
In Ayurveda, there is no evidence or anything. They say that fruit should be boiled. They never advise. Ayurveda very clearly says, phala prashana, when you need to give the phala to the child. So it is after the 6th month, 7th month, during that period, start with the phala prashana. And vegetables also in the same fashion. But vegetables needs much more good digested things. It needs to be digested, because child will not be having sufficient cutting edges like teeth and all those things. So it is better to make it boiled or cooked it. So once you cook it, it becomes more softer and it easy for the digestion purposes. So it's not compulsion that the fruit should be boiled. The fruits can be given by mashing it to the child, that can be consumed. That's what Ayurveda has very clearly said. But there are certain fashions nowadays, boiling the apple and scraping it off and then giving it to this. These are the new things which is being told by pediatricians and all those things and the nutritional advisors. So many things are there, but Ayurveda never vouch for these things.
Thank you, there, sir. And Rajnikant has made a comment. Langhana means which bring our lightness to the body, such as fasting. Is indicated in Alpadosha only, and Langana, if done in Bahudosha Avastha, it will increase Vayu. It is mentioned in Charaka Vimanasana, 3 types of Apatarpana.
It's typically one way. It is Langana and these things indicate Alpadosha. This is Roga Avastha. It is not the general way of life or the general practice of the thing. The question was how to do fasting in a general person or a healthy person. But when person comes to a doctor complaining of something, and when a doctor analyzed it, then he finds there is a alpa dosha vikriti or avastha. Then he used to suggest the Langana, that will be sufficient. But in Bahudosha avastha, if it is already there, then there is no need to go for Langana. Bahudosha avastha is always suitable for Shodhana.
What is for a healthy person? For example, Dinacharya, Rutucharya, all the rules are for healthy person and versus a patients, that demarcation is very clear. For example, Langana for a healthy person is very different when compared to a disease stage. Just to, for those who are interested, there's this Langana Pachana, and Dosha Vasechana. It is explained, it is explained in the Janapododvamsaniya Vimana chapter, the third chapter of Vimanasana of Charaka. In that, he explains about Santarpana and Apatarpana, and he explains what is Apatarpana, that is depletion therapy. In that, Langana Pachana, Dosha Sechana, elimination of doshas are explained. Jai Raghu has commented, recent time health published a study or article saying intermittent fasting reverses diabetes in patients who are not on medication. For those who are on medication to under medical care, since it could be fatal in some cases, this session has clarified fasting better. Thank you. I will consider it as a comment. Another thing with the fasting, especially in diabetic patients, we need to take a lot of care, because if they're fasting and if they take the medicine to decrease the blood sugar level, then it can suddenly cause hypoglycemia and cause a lot of problems.
Intermittent fasting or anything that needs to be done with a lot of care. Otherwise, it may be counterproductive and may cause a lot of issues. Only those patients who have a high or hyperglycemia or a high blood glucose, but doesn't have any sugar in urine, they are the most suitable for this intermittent fasting and reduction in all those things. Then definitely the reversal can be done with those people.
Could you please tell us examples to improve Agni when there is Ama? For the sake of this class, like Ama becomes like a too much thing. When there is low digestion strength in a patient, various ways in which we can improve Agni.
Definitely, for these people, those who have a tendency to develop disturbance in the Agni now and then, and they have a low digestive strength, and they tend to develop Ama, for those people, it will be a very better for that. But of course, Acharya has said it is for everybody. But these people are most suited for that. That's what Acharya very clearly said. Bhojanagre sadhapatyam lavanardrika bhakshanam. Very typically said, Bhojanagre sadhapatyam lavanardrika bhakshanam. So before the food, consumption of lavana and ardraka is patya for all of you, very clearly said. And this is going to help to increase the Agni. And of course, once Agni is improved, Ama gets automatically digested. The other options are Jiraka. Very clearly said it is a Deepyaka. It increases the Agni. So using a cumin powder or even Somf or Ajwain, ginger, all these are very good things for improving the Agni. And of course, somebody may be comfortable with ginger, somebody may be comfortable with cumin, somebody may be comfortable with some other things which can improve the Agni. So accordingly, we can use it. Even simply, if you want to increase Agni, you can even go for the unripe mango in the form of boiled it and made it to a what you call puree like or something like that. It is called as, in our places, it's very commonly called as appesaru, very clearly. So that is used to improve the digestion, Agni, to improve the Agni. So that can be taken.
In a patient with low digestion strength, better to go with this than, also along with say fasting and other things, like as we have discussed, will also increase the digestion strength. And there is a question on ginger and pepper, because we are discussing spices. Can stomach ulcer patients consume shunti or ginger or pipali as they are Madhavbaug to get relief from sinus allergies or cold and cough? Can you comment on?
Definitely they can use it, of course, but use it with a caution and along with madhu. It is better to mix it with madhu and use it. And definitely it is a shunti, it is a dry ginger powder, and a pipali. Both of them are having Madhavbaug. So definitely it won't cause any issues with Amla Pitta or ulcers, but still they have a potency of pungency that needs to be taken care of. So quantum is once again individual specific.
And also it's good that in the patients, for example, having very high Pachaka Pitta or Amla Pitta or right out ulcer, if you have to use spices, better to use it, say, mixed with meals, or even maybe at the end of the meals is also good strategy, so that the stomach or the intestines are like not directly exposed to the spiciness.
Definitely, that can be adopted.
there was a question on like, is there any Ayurveda drug kind of book, website, or anything available to get updated medicine list? For that, we have ayurmedinfo.com. This is our website. Only in that we have covered more than 3,800 medicines as of today. You can just go and search, for example, here. There's a search box in the right top corner. If you want to say search Trikatu and Triphala, you'll get all the medicines containing Trikatu and Triphala together. Please go to ayurmedinfo.com. There's a question that maybe the last one for today. Is in any circumstances turmeric capsules cause any side effects, or should we take any precautions while we prescribe turmeric to a patient?
Definitely, when you are prescribing turmeric to a Pittaja Prakriti person or one who is suffering from Pittaja disorder, in him, if you are maybe because of any or in your understanding and your thought process, you feel that turmeric is the right choice, then if you are giving it, there should be periodical evaluation because this may cause some irritation also because of increased pitta. So care should be taken. So many times we suggest in that situation, instead of giving turmeric in the capsule form, just little bit of turmeric can be fried in ghee and consumed, which is going to reduce that irritability and such thing which can be produced out of the ushnata of the turmeric. It can be reduced by frying in ghee. So that's what the typical we can make a things that having a ushnata to reduce that.
Thank you. Even with the like Haridra Kanda, there is this turmeric and Trikatu, Triphala, etc. And there is also frying is involved in the process. With that, we come to the end of this session. Thank you all. Namaste.